Well, I press record now, so that's working.
You press record?
Yeah.
So additional content for the...
yeah, at least 5 seconds.
If only we could think of something to say that was...
Podcast massive. Right.
Hello, podcast people.
Oh, the podcast people. Oh, we're on Facebook, that's good.
Hello, Facebook.
You know, let me... try again. Oh, what let me do on Facebook? On YouTube, wasn't it? Hello there, Facebook. No one's watching apparently, so try again. YouTube. Bonus content I'll probably edit off the podcast. 13 people are watching on Facebook. Phil's going to do a dance. Perform. Dance, monkey, dance.
I'll do anything for a chocolate biscuit.
Well, that's the concern though, isn't it?
Yeah.
We are live. It is 4020 live on the first show of the year. Because we didn't do one last week.
It being pre-season, we don't have the full team in.
No. Mark Wilson has been rotated to work when he doesn't usually work. What's that all about?
Work? What's that all about?
Well, yeah. As I said before, I reckon it's because I jokingly show us our veganery special on YouTube. It doesn't like that. Because I've just checked, and unfortunately our biscuits are not vegan friendly. So,
a bit late now, as I've had half the packet.
A picture of that. Oh, I can hear the rain. Dear me.
And Mr. Schofield, the man renowned for his vision and awareness, has only got half of it at the moment.
I think we're live on YouTube now, isn't it? Looks like it. Fingers crossed.
So get well soon, GS.
Yes. He'll be back. People will think we've banned him again.
No, he'll be back.
People will think we've banned him or something. We're definitely live on Facebook. Because it says 4020 has gone live. Happy New Year, Mary. Hey up. Jason says, ready for the start of Saint's decade of dominance. Men or women? Or both. Evening, Catherine. Happy New Year, Sandy. Sandy, I've got something for you. I don't know if I've got it in my bag, actually. Happy New Year, Karsten. Hello, Rob. He could have brought the CAS LDRL team with him today. But, yeah, we just after Christmas, isn't it? I've not got my laptop either because I've been at the very exciting RFL Rugby League launch, because it's a different thing than the Super League launch, which comes up in a secret date in the future.
24th.
Don't tell them where though, because they'll all try and turn up.
There won't be any free biscuits.
No. Yeah, just for
what stash did you?
Well, I was going to say, just because our favourite word is stash, because we've stolen it from a young person. She's younger than both of us anyway. So none. I've got a list of the odds of who's going to win the things from a bookmaker. Well, I say a Betfred, they sponsor the league, and a Masters beer mat. But not even a pen. No pen. One can only hope at Super League.
No socks. No. 1 year we got socks.
Yeah, they were good socks though. So one can only hope that the good people of Super League are watching this programme right now. I think.
Luggage.
But, yeah.
Coats.
I mean, the other thing is though, the amount of people who get accredited by the Rugby Football League these days. Any Tom, Dick and Harry could be getting this stuff, which is a concern.
So as events go, as it's been a weekend of events, how would you rate your event today at Huddersfield Town Hall?
Huddersfield Town Hall, which has a massive organ in it.
Pardon?
Ralph did a speech.
Make that link, if you will.
It was a season long. Everything's positive at the start of the season, aren't they? Because Ralph comes out and does a speech. Did no jokes this year. He said, well, no, he said England were going to beat the Aussies. Buy your tickets. No, I can't remember what his exact quote was, but it was, send them home with their tails.
We're going to do them.
We're going to do them. Go on. Get back, Aussies. Robbie says, can you guys speak up or are you in a library? We're in a bookshop. I didn't realise it was quiet. Sorry. So, yeah, Ralph did his speech. Tanya presented it. She's very professional. They had a range of guests. Mark Pearson from the sponsors Betfred, who always speaks well. Courtney Hill, Woman of Steel.
James Simpson.
He wasn't on the stage though at the start.
Big fan of James Simpson.
He was afterwards. But yes, they had Courtney Hill, Woman of Steel, nearly walked away from the sport. But, you know, the love of rugby league is kept within our bosom.
Well, it wouldn't be money.
No, there's no money in rugby league. I need to find an advert from the 70s in the Wakefield programmes where it's an advert for coal. And he says, try telling these lads there's no future in coal. And you go, sadly, I've read the book and I know the ending to this one. And they had Danny Ward, he's the coach of London, and Sylvain Houlez, he's the coach of Toulouse. And Ralph said, what would the people 125 years ago have made of the coach of London, the coach of Toulouse, and a woman, well, the Woman of Steel, on a stage talking about rugby league? Well, they'd be dead for a start, so they wouldn't know. But yeah,
I think they would have said great, because right from the very beginning we wanted to sell the game to as many people as we could in new markets. We just didn't do it very well.
I'm just saying people can't hear us, but they should be able to hear us, okay? Can hardly hear us both. Are your microphones in another room? No, wait, they're here. Which one's that? That's that one. Let me move it closer. Is that better? Can you hear us better now? I've no idea what it looks like. I'm just moving the camera without saying. This is a kind of professionalism, yeah, that people expect from this this empire. Love the show, guys. Says Stuart. Look forward to it every Monday. Well, someone does. It's always good. It is good when we go out and about and people say, "Oh, I enjoyed the programme." Lots of people on the YouTube as well. Can't wait for the season to start, says Michael. We'll be here soon. Welcome back from Guy the Viking. The RFL have seen sense to put the 1895 Cup on before the Challenge Cup final. This is true.
I think the RFL have made a couple of really, really good decisions with regard to the women's season, acknowledging the fact that there is a disparity in standard between some of the teams. Understandable. We're only in the third year of the competition, so splitting it after the early rounds, I think that's great. Standalone double-header grand final the day after the men's grand final. I think that's great. I also think that they've done the right thing. With the what was it?
1895 Cup.
1895.
The AB Sundex 1895 Cup sponsorship deal renewed. Not a bookmaker. Yeah.
Oh right. I think there was a lot of understandable concern that putting that on after the Challenge Cup final meant that you were giving people an excuse not to watch it. Now it's going to kick off at midday. No excuses.
No.
Get there early. Watch the competition that London can't win.
I think, as we said last year, it's unfortunate about the schools final, but we need to make money. And people may well, based on the fact that their team's in the 1895 Cup final, may well go to Wembley and pay however much it costs to go to Wembley. Some tickets available, which the schools aren't necessarily going to do. That's economics, sadly. But it's still a great competition for the schools. It'll still kick off when no one's there. It's going to be before the 1895 Cup final, but it does mean that people say, oh, it's a long day. I don't think it makes it any longer. I think if anything, it makes it shorter. If you're going to go to watch both games, I can't remember what time we left last year, but we were one of the few people who were still there at the end. But for everyone else, you know, the day finishes as soon as the winning team wanders off with the cup into the darkness of the tunnel. So about 5:30, 6 o'clock, you'll be making your way back up north. So
by which time the trains will cease to exist.
Well, of course. People asking where Sco is. He's not well. It's in the paper today.
He's recovering.
Yeah, he'll be back.
He'll be fine.
Jess says, Wembley's too expensive, nobody's leaving. No one leaving. He'll be alright. I think it'd be interesting to see what happens with the 1895 Cup final this year, or the Cup competition as a whole, because again it's going to be played mid-season. Again, it is kind of putting it somewhere just to... what is it for? What is it for?
Just to give a chance for clubs like Sheffield and Widnes last year to play at Wembley. But I think they deserved... They served up a terrific game, and it deserved more people. Their players deserved more accolades for what they did, and you'll get that if the game kicks off earlier, because there'll be more people in the stadium.
It was a good game, from what I remember. I think I only saw the second half, so I was busy down in the tunnel, but it's good. I don't know if it'll be on the Our League app, I'm sure. And I'm sure with it being the build-up to the final, maybe you can say to the BBC, stick on the red button. I saw some people moaning because obviously also announced was the fact that the triple header is back at Bolton again next year. They have to come back from holiday, perfect timing.
There's a big gap this year between the semi-finals and the final.
We can sell some merch.
We can actually promote the final, though. I mean, I think we've got beginning of June for the semis and middle of July for the final. So the teams that get there can actually promote the event.
People moaning that because the women's finals on the same day as the men's semis, that you might have to pay if you're a fan of one of the women's teams and only see one game. Well, it's the same if you're supporting one of the men's teams.
But you are allowed to stay and watch the other game. You don't have to leave.
It's a good idea. We were at the standalone final where there was no one there.
I think it's about creating events.
We want events. Events are good. You were at an event yesterday. It's like we throw this thing together. And an event which, in the weeks before Christmas, we're all looking forward to celebrating the career of Jamie Jones Buchanan. Great servant to Leeds, or whatever word you want to use. And we spoke about this on the last show before Christmas. Obviously, we had the news about Rob Burrow. He's been everywhere, trying to raise awareness in the last weeks and days. I hope he gets some time to rest and spend time with his family. Now the game's done, and it turned into an event for him. And I was out, so I didn't see, but from what I've seen on TV in the bar at Bellevue after the match, the Mobile Rocket, the game was on, and I saw the bit where Brian County was interviewing Rob Burrow and trying to get a word with Barry McDermott. I couldn't get a word with Barry because he was obviously too emotional. And from what I understand, it was that kind of afternoon at Headingley.
It made you think that there are some things this sport does absolutely magnificently, and it's when we all work together, when there's a common cause, when there's a reason to promote above and beyond specific allegiance. And if we could take that into the whole of the sport and the decisions that it makes and how everybody could work together for the good of all, then there's no stopping us. It was... the word I've heard attached to it more than any other is emotional. And that doesn't do it justice. It was more than that. It was one of those occasions where you really wanted to be there, you had to be there, it was a privilege to be there, but realistically you didn't want to be there because of the reasons you were there. But it would have been very easy to turn it into a eulogy. And actually, it was a brilliant celebration. And it's the little thing. It's like the best teams say. It's the little things that make the difference between success and also rans. And it was things like having the gold numbers on the back of the legendary Leeds players that came on, because it's the golden generation, and it distinguished them from the other players who were wearing the same numbers.
Let me just stop a minute because the Facebook's not working properly. So I'm going to start again. So all those people on Facebook who are voting, bear with me. To the YouTube people, bear with us. I don't know what's the word. But it's better that we give this the respect it deserves rather than deal with a video that's... This is going to be the best podcast ever, isn't it?
You're going to have some editing to do.
Oh, no. Editing, what's that? It can take the start of the year and just... Things don't want to work when they don't want to work, do they? So, we've got lots to talk about. You can get in touch. Don't forget to like, share, subscribe, all those things they tell you to do on social media that the professionals do, and not just us sat here with the rain outside. I'm blaming the rain.
It is heavy.
The weather. Right, go live, it says. So if you want to become a broadcaster, listeners, viewer, it's never been easier yet, as we prove week in, week out. Just because it's easy doesn't mean it's any good. Starting live video. Right. Take 2. Oh.
Where were we up to?
We're praising Leeds, which is always a... That'll be facetious.
It would have been very easy to get the occasion not wrong, but to set a mood that was maudlin in its outlook. it became the most wonderful commemoration, and everybody bought into it. I want to credit the Bradford fans. It's so easy to leave when the final whistle goes. To a man, woman and child, everybody stayed. One of the most touching moments was clearly, we'll talk about Rob himself in a minute, but when he was interviewed on the pitch straight afterwards and tried to pay tribute to his lovely wife Lindsay, he broke down. And while the Leeds fans were chanting from the South Stand, "Go on, Rob," it was the Bradford fans that started the chorus of "One Rob Burrow," and in so many ways that summed up the whole afternoon. There was no concession. I thought, Ben Thaler played a really important role in that transition from a competitive game to the legends coming on. And he did it brilliantly. I perhaps naively thought it would become a game of touch and pass at the end, and it wasn't. Ask Sam Smith if he hurt this morning from being cut in half by Kylie Luluai.
About 1 million people have watched already on social media.
Stuart Fielden looked like if he runs out next week in a Bradford shirt, he won't be out of place. But the game didn't change when all the legends came on. It was still a competitive game of rugby league. I think the decision, whoever made it, to get Jamie Jones-Buchanan on 5 minutes before everybody else, so that he could genuinely play a part in his final appearance on what was ostensibly to start with his day. Again, brilliant arrangement, great logistics behind it, and it was something that everybody could buy into. Hats off to Sky, because again, they've never shown a friendly before. No. But the footage they've got out of it, and the millions of social media clips that are out there being watched by countless number of people, astonishing, absolutely brilliant.
The work they did in the build-up as well. Obviously, there's plenty of coverage of the trip to the Super Bowl, which unfortunately the Seahawks lost, I think, last night to the Packers. So that's not good for Rob. But the work that I think what it shows is, and this would not happen for everyone, is the fact that Rob Burrow is held in such high regard by everybody.
Well, I think that's the other thing, that I want to pay tribute to Rob, because Rob is not somebody who seeks or has ever been comfortable in the spotlight, and obviously through no fault of his own has been thrust into it over the last 3 weeks. The way he has handled himself has been astonishing. The interviews that he's given, and the honesty and dignity and passion and integrity he has spoken with, is what's endeared him to people beyond. I mean, I saw a tweet from Paul Sculthorpe, who was clearly there with a table of ex-players from Lancashire who'd all come together, just saying that, you can't do any more in sport than admire somebody like Rob Burrow. It doesn't matter who you play for or who you played against. And I think the last 3 weeks have epitomised that of all the emotion yesterday, and I hate using the word I wish I, like Rob, who keeps saying I haven't got enough words to express myself, I'd like to find a word other than emotion, because it's more than that. But to go through the experience he did yesterday, where he was in tears for quite a lot of that 80 minutes, when he came out originally holding his 1-year-old son, who was at his first game with his 2 daughters in front of him. It clearly, the wave of emotion hit him. When he came on the field, that will be, it's been retweeted by numerous sports people in other sports. Dion Dublin was one of them this afternoon that put it back out. Clearly touched anybody who's ever had anything to do with sport. To be able to get up this morning and go and do BBC Breakfast live and talk again openly about exactly how he felt on that occasion, and get people like Dan Walker then retweeting him. We're reaching people with the inherent qualities of rugby league that can only be put down to somebody like Rob, who is prepared to put himself out there, however uncomfortable that makes him feel. And I just think he's been astonishing in all of this. I think we've been doing everything we can as fans of the game to support him, but he's the manner in which he has gone about dealing with what he has to do, and still portraying the public face of the sport in the manner in which he has over the last 3 weeks has been absolutely amazing.
The man on the ITV breakfast programme tweeted as well, I noticed, which, you know, he's got lots of followers. Can't stand him, he's got lots of followers.
It'd be the first thing he's tweeted that I would ever agree with if he did.
I'm not sure what happens now.
There'll be a gala dinner in February. That'll be another event. I think there are a lot of people arranging events now. Good friend Mr. Schofield is having a golf day at Normanton Golf Club in July. I think all the details of things that people will be doing will be coming out. I think Rob obviously is now on a treatment schedule at Sheffield. Ironically, of all things, his consultant is called Mr. McDermott. He cannot get away from McDermott.
They're everywhere.
Right, there's always a McDermott telling him what to do. So I think he needs. One of the things he did say yesterday, which again resonated, bearing in mind that if you know that his personality is not one to seek the limelight, is he wants to get back to normality. And normality for him is changing nappies, spending time with his absolutely beautiful family, and coaching. And I think he will cope with whatever he has to cope with through things being as normal as they can. That's not going to stop people coming up to him in the street, shaking his hand, or raising money for him, or asking him for interviews or appearances or whatever it might be. But I think that he will relish a little bit the ability to step back from all of this. It's our job to keep promoting whatever the cause is, you know, him and his family, but also awareness of the disease that he is now suffering from. That's what he wants. He wants people to be more aware of the trials and tribulations that he is about to go through, and not just him, but anybody who's got the disease. And I think he's, again, because he is the ultimate man of the people, his concern is not so much for him, it's raising the awareness for anybody who's got the disease, so that more can be done to help them. I can't tip my hat to him enough. And to both clubs that were involved yesterday, they were magnificent. Bradford's players paid their own way in. Bradford donated their proportion of the proceeds to the fund. As John Keir said afterwards, there's a way of doing things. There's a dignity that perhaps hasn't been attached to the Bradford club over the last 5 or 6 years, which is nothing to do with their playing personnel. It's just that we've documented the strife that the club have had in terms of its ownership. But yesterday was a step in the right direction, and whoever was there, you know you're at something incredibly special, and it's very hard to find the right words to commemorate something like that.
If we are still having problems on Facebook, I can't check. I'm sorry. Join us on YouTube. Find us on there. We've got adverts on there as well, which is even better. She might make some money, which nobody else is doing. Stringy Bob, and this comes to the next thing we have to talk about. And he says, this is not meant to sound controversial, more a statement of fact. But lately it seems every time a player gets injured, fans are asking to contribute to crowdfunding. This seems like a relatively new thing. Do players, clubs, agents not have insurance as a default? In cases like Rob Burrow and Jansen Turgett, I get it. They can no longer earn their crust as being a player. But surely RL Cares, club insurance, should be looking out for the players, not the fan base. I can understand the point Bob is making there completely. Because we're not the sport that's full of rich people queuing up to watch or invest. We have got a stereotypically working class fan base, and whenever anything sad happens or bad happens, we tend to go cap in hand to the people who are already paying. Obviously we've got the situation at the moment with Mossy Masoi, who's in hospital, and we're obviously sending our best wishes. Injured yesterday in a completely innocuous event, went into a tackle, stretched it off the field, and obviously he's had surgery. No further update yet on how he is or how he's going to be in the future. It's a tricky one. I understand the point Bob's making. It's a tricky one.
I do, but I also think that people want to be involved. They want to. I again saw one or two people interviewed yesterday in and around Headingley, and they weren't just Leeds fans. There were people that had come with their Keighley shirts on, for example, and I think we all feel that we ask a hell of a lot of those who entertain us, and that when things start to go wrong, we want to be seen to be putting something back. I don't think there's anything wrong with that. I think we know in our heart of hearts that if the Borough family need anything, then organisations like the Benevolent Fund, Rugby League Kit, they'll make sure. You know, if Lindsay Borough needs something, we'll make sure as a sports unit. But I think we want to do more. I think we want to show, and whether that's a donation, whether that's buying a testimonial programme, whether it's by turning up at an event like yesterday, whether it's going to a dinner in the future, we want to be seen to be giving something back. And I think that's the other element whereby Rob Borough has gone above and beyond what nothing's expected of him. On Twitter, before the game yesterday, he tried to auction or give back to fans some signed shirts of his, because he wanted so much to show how grateful he was and how I can never repay people. You don't need to repay us. We're repaying you for the entertainment and the joy that you have given us, no matter which club we're allied to. Because in so many ways, what you do and the sacrifices you make is on behalf of us, is above and beyond. And it's the same with Mossy Messiah. I can understand why people want to make sure that his family are with him, that all is being done for him that can be done, whatever that needs to be. Jansen Turger as well, I think, you know, in terms of comparative careers, not the same as Rob Burrows, but the principle behind wanting to give something back is exactly the same.
I hope people take this in the right way I'm going to say it. I hope people learn from what's happened in the past few weeks that supporting people is more important than supporting businesses that are failing. Because we can sign a ball and sell it and give it to someone, and that helps their life and their family, or we can sell a ball and sell it and it is set on fire. And people won't learn that lesson, because it always happens, but I hope people think when you... I don't want to tell people what to donate to and what not to, but
I
should
think
be able to work.
Yesterday we got a sense of perspective about what is really important, and there was a game that was played yesterday. Nobody really cares.
Yeah.
There will be teams that will lose matches in the next couple of weeks when the season kicks off. It's not that important. We sometimes lose that. There'll be people on message boards shouting at players and how they've played, and yet if that player had been put in a situation that any of the three we've talked about have, we'd immediately be jumping to their support and aid. So you have to get that balance and perspective right. I was just thinking last night, when it's been so difficult to compute everything that's happened, not difficult as in the sense that we're vicariously dealing with it, but it makes you think about things. This game could be anything. If we could take the spirit of things like yesterday and work together in the bigger picture, we too much get, and we're guilty of it, even on this programme, too much wound up in the minutiae of the little things. But we could be... There is such goodwill out there for rugby league. And again, you know, through tragedy, we've seen how much it means to people that we didn't even know took our sport to heart and admires it.
I'm too much of a cynical person, and I remember being called up by Talk Sport after Danny Jones passed away, and I can't remember half the things I said, because you don't know what you're saying when people ask you questions, especially about the player you don't really know too much about. But one of the things I distinctly remember saying, because I think they actually clipped it and used it on the news, was it puts things into perspective for a while, but eventually we all go back to hating each other. And that's the problem, is we will all go, in a couple of weeks' time, everything will be back to normal. And, you know, when I say hate Leeds, it's a joke. I don't really hate
I think the other thing is that if we're to take this to a wider level, and it's very hard to. We live in a society at the moment where division is prized more above unity. In all walks of life, it's not a political statement. No. It's just true that division seems easier to promote than what binds us together. Something like what the Rugby League community, I hate using the word family, because
families fall out all the time.
Families are dysfunctional by their very nature.
Divorces and stuff.
And we've never really defined what we mean by family, but the community, it's a sport that is rooted in communities. The community tends to look after itself when it's under any form of attack or threat. That's something that's been lost. Rugby League has regained that over the last 3 weeks, and it's why I think we need to do. We don't need to do more. We need to behave in a manner more like we have yesterday than we will do in 3 or 4 weeks' time, when some kicker misses a kick and a team loses and some bloke gets taken off and substituted and social media goes with how rubbish he is. It won't happen.
So obviously our thoughts were with Mossy and his family, and we hope for the best. It just shows again, and I don't know why people need reminding of this, of how dangerous the game is, and why I've said on this programme before, when people say, we want to bring back the shoulder challenge and this, but that. Game's dangerous enough without making it even more dangerous, just because you want to prove you're a hard man. People don't like when I say that.
I'm not sure it's dangerous, it's tough.
It can be. Accidents.
Even, Rob Burrow, when asked about the 5 minutes that he played, said, this is a tough game. Yeah, it's really hard to even play 5 minutes when you haven't played for a number of months.
Was it Graham Lowe's quote after the Wigan Bath thing? Could still play a game of rugby and only 5 minutes of league. Elsewhere, I said, I haven't finished on the Wakefield game. Obviously, Wakefield won 18-6. Danny Bruff's testimonial, described by Chris Dress as the most competitive player he's ever coached and played with. As I put on Twitter in my facetious way on the Forty20 live account, so you can't tell it's me. It reminds me of that quote of Alan Partridge on Sevi Ballesteros, doing all the gracefulness of a ballerina and the hard-nosed quantities of a bastard. That's Danny Bruff. Something like that. He is, and I've said this before, and I'll say it again. In the time I've been watching Wakefield, I think he's the best player who's played for Wakefield in that time. In 2/3 spells, depending on what you want to go on. I wonder what would have happened to him had he stayed at Wakefield as a junior. He would never have gone on to win the Challenge Cup at all, and you don't know what would have happened afterwards. But I remember when he left to go to Huddersfield, and some fans were happy to see the back of him. I thought, he's a winner.
Be careful.
He's a winner, and there aren't many players like that. So deserves his testimonial. I'm sure that will be well supported as well. Perfect with the boot yesterday. Ryan Hampshire looked good back in the side after his leaving and coming back. A bit swift. Tom Johnston's back.
That is
he scored
important.
A Tom Johnston try. I worry every time he runs because I worry about him. But he was fine last year into freak accidents. But maybe he'll be in the English squad come the end of the year.
When we do the Aussies.
Yeah, we're going to do it. We're doing you. Scotty been giving him tips on.
When was the last time we did the Aussies?
1970. Hull KR looked a bit not as a team just yet, but they've brought in so many players.
20 players they've signed over the close.
That's a lot of players. Ryan Briley came on and looked okay. Sean Kenny Dowell, brilliant kick straight into touch. That was good. I'm sure they'll be all right. When we get to closer to the start of the season,
don't read too much into pre-season.
You can't read anything into them. Huddersfield beat Halifax 42-6. And the other testimony gave for Jermaine McGilvery. Everyone loves Jermaine. Again, another player known to.
Well, again, a wonderful gesture by Jermaine McGilvery that played in a specially designed shirt. He auctioned his straight after the game and gave the proceeds to the Rob Burrow Fund.
So many nice people in our sport, aren't we? And no, I'll just say there's so many nice people in this game that we spend far too much time trying to rehabilitate those who've done something wrong and not. I know there's no great selling point, is there, in a story of here's a person who's gone through his career and done good and not necessarily done anything bad, but maybe we do need to celebrate those people more, because you don't know when you're going to have the chance to tell them that they were really good and we love them.
We've just sent to print the latest 4020 magazine out this week.
The cover's beautiful, by the way. If you haven't seen it, it is absolutely beautiful.
New column from somebody on television as well. The Clive James of rugby league.
He wishes.
But one of the things within it is just to look at what basketball has done, because one of their, if not their greatest commissioner, who was in their Hall of Fame, was in post for 30 years. When he took over, basketball was almost on the verge of extinction. Didn't even have a live television deal. Now it's apparently the second most participated sport in the world.
You go on the BBC website every morning, there's a story about something LeBron James has done.
Well, and in places like China, which hadn't to all intents and purposes heard of basketball 30 years ago, massive. New Zealand now, kids are not even wanting to be All Blacks, they want to be basketball players. But that was a sport that in 1984, when David Stern took over, was on its knees, absolutely, completely. And within a period of time that can be classed as relatively short in the history of a sport, its global presence is now enormous. And it's the one thing he said was it was all about the game. He wasn't going to change the game. He was going to promote the game and build an experience around the game and the people that played the game. Well, where have we heard that? So the blueprint is not necessarily darts or snooker. There are parallels, clearly. But other sports have been through the kind of transformation. If we focus on what we're really good at, which is the product and the people that play it, there's a chance. And take a couple of risks.
We should look outside. There are things we can steal. I would steal plenty of things from other sports. Peter says Kevin Brown, despite it only being a friendly, caught the eye yesterday. Mary says, give a shout out to Michael Shenton for his testimonial, please. A great guy, player and ambassador for the sport. Agreed. Playing Toronto. Well, will they be playing Sonny Bill, who I understand is on a big number, a very big number of pounds, dollars a year.
We played the game of pick our team of the decade over the transition from one year to the next, and I did have Michael Shenton in mind. I think the service he's provided for at least three guys outside him who've gone on to be top try scorers tells you exactly how good he's been.
Well, as Chris says, has Greg Eden gone out on loan to Keithley? We don't know. It's in the paper today. That's an interesting move.
Well, with Jake Webster.
It's a very interesting move, isn't it? We are in that. Well, I was discussing this earlier. We've got reserves coming back in. That's exciting. We've also got dual reg at the same time.
I am really sceptical about reserves because I'm not sure when people bought the reserves back that we had in mind that the likes of Huddersfield, Halifax and Hunslet would join together. I think there's more announcements of teams joining together coming. So I think we've realised that do it if you've got the amount of players to make it a worthwhile venture. Otherwise, it becomes a hybrid.
We've got reserve grand final to sell. No, we don't know what's happening. Michael has shot that college basketball on TV over here. Michael, there's a lot of American sport, especially on BT. They show all kinds of college sport. I'm interested to see where we go. There's been a lot of stuff come out from the RFL over the past few days. One of which was kind of now been lost. I mentioned the Challenge Cup triple header, but also the extension of the TV deal to 2021. Whoa, so far in the future. But it does tend to suggest that the next 12, 18 months are going to be crucial, massive, all those words, for the future of rugby league at the professional stroke semi-professional level and
Well,
what that means.
Whether you can keep it as a full-time professional sport at a level. Because, let's make no mistake, every sport is funded by external income. It's not what you can generate anymore. It's the rights that you can sell the sport for. It's the commercial partners you can bring in. And it's even private equity companies that we've seen with Rugby Union and who allegedly Rugby League are talking to. But they want to say in how the sport looks and a return on their investment. And with the greatest will in the world, they're not interested in a small community club that can only get 450 people watching it every week. They are interested in big cities and global names playing and big other investors coming in and them getting a return on their money. So there is a case for saying that it will go one of two ways. That either we will revert back to being what we once were, and that is a part-time sport, or we have to go global, because there is nothing in the middle anymore. You can't stand still.
NRL Europe, stroke North, stroke whatever. The podcast numbers are in. Despite the fact we haven't had a podcast for a couple of weeks, we're still we're 13th in rugby in Great Britain. But like the Super League podcast isn't in there because they haven't classified themselves as rugby.
Right.
Carson's been on. The Triple H partnership of Featherstone Rhinos, and Featherstone Rhinos rather, and the start of a feeder system. There's Carson not being aware that, apart from the M word you can't mention the F word. Because even though everyone knows, that's what dual reg is. Feeder clubs. Sooner or later, it's financially it will make sense for that to happen, because there will become a point where, as in Australia, people realise that Club A in City B hasn't got the finance or support or players to compete with Team B in the same city.
I think
or so on and so forth.
There are two things. One is there is a danger always that you are forced into doing something because you've got to the point where finance dictates. You don't strategically plan for something. So you get towards the edge of a cliff and then the choice is do you get pushed over or not? And you know, if somebody throws you a safety harness, you have to have that's all the only option that you've got. And I just feel at the moment, particularly with effectively two bodies that are governing in different spheres, that we haven't got that overall blueprint for the sport, and the danger might well be that the harness that's thrown is the one we have to accept, and if that does lead to M words and F words, then it'll be a consequence, it won't be a choice. I think the other thing is we haven't quite got the salary cap idea right, because again you look at other sports that operate a salary cap, and there are a lot of different teams that have won things and been in contention for things. And again, I know you're a devotee of American football, and the team that has dominated for the last 4 or 5 years is not in the finals this year.
Which is the shock. Tom Brady has become Kevin Sinfield. And
we are running a piece in the new Forty20 magazine out this week, saying, you know, is it the end of an era for Melbourne Storm? Because you can't keep losing your world-class players under a salary cap system and replace them with like for like. And they had a very special group, you know, arguably 4 of the greatest players we've seen in any era, and there's only one left, Cameron Smith. But they haven't been able to find another Billy Slater or, you know, Brodie Croft, who was earmarked to be one of the replacements. He's now playing for Brisbane next year because the salary cap it sort of works. It works in the NFL, it works in the NRL, it works in basketball. It provides opportunities for clubs to have their window of opportunity. Who were the names on the Super League trophy in the last decade? It started and ended with St Helens, Wigan and Leeds. We need to change that. Is the problem that in the NFL, in the NBA, Major League Baseball, Major League Soccer, the NRL, everything apart from the Rugby Union Premiership,
they don't have relegation.
That's
if we go back to there's the other word for you.
But also, it's a minimum requirement that you spend the full salary cap, and you also have a talent development system that feeds into it, whereby in the NBA, for example, the NFL, they have a draft, so that the best crop of new players coming in gets sent to the lesser teams, and that evens out the talent, and it means that as a fan or an investor, every year we'll all sit here and go, oh, we'll do our predictions for 2020. But the truth is, we virtually know where most teams are going to finish. Is it going to be top, middle or bottom? And there'll always be a bolter. Salford were the bolter last year. There'll always be somebody who underperforms. But basically, the odds tell you, of the bookies who don't normally get it wrong, we're all saying we think we know where every team's going to finish. We just don't necessarily know the order. But this team will be in the bottom four, that team will be in the middle four, that team will be in the top four. We don't have enough variety and opportunity for enough teams. And apart from Salford and Castleford in 2017, the usual monopoly hasn't looked like being broken.
Well, in the Championship, the sponsors don't have a clue who's going to win it, because they've got 3 teams all at 100 to 30 joint favourites. London Broncos, Toulouse Olympique and the Centurions, with Featherstone just behind them at 4 to 1, although the players are different because they've got London the favourites there. I don't know how those necessarily work, but I should realise these things.
I think, again, the difference is that the Championship clubs get an allocation of money depending on where they finished the previous year. And the problem with that is that that'll tend to indicate that you'll finish in the same position this year. So, again, it's the salary cap principle. Unless everybody is genuinely equal at the starting line, and we all have the optimism that any club can win at the end of the season, it's almost like you've got a grid. So some teams with more money to spend have a greater chance of finishing ahead of others.
Everyone's equal, but some are more equal than others, aren't they?
Is the correct answer.
Barrow were the 5 to 2 favourites to win League One, followed by Doncaster and Newcastle. Big spending Newcastle, at 7 to 2. Keighley 7 to an 8 to 1 bar. The women's
is that Keighley before Greg Eden?
Well, prices subject to fluctuation. If you don't know what that means, get a dictionary. Women's Super League, Castleford, Leeds, St Helens, 5 to 2 joint favourites. Co-favourites of 3. Wigan 8 to 1. Warrington are 10 to 1. Never played a game in the Super League. They're short. I don't know how they've come up with these prices. So they're short of 33 to 1. They're short of price than Wakefield and York and Fev, who've been there last year. And Fev, I would probably suggest, would finish above us. I don't know. I'll have to get in touch with them before they ban bookmakers sponsoring things. It seems terrible for them. Then we would be in trouble. Forget everything else pulling out. Elsewhere on social media, well, live on Facebook and YouTube as ever. We had a message from someone, I've lost it now, about the new format for the Women's Super League. Teams playing each other too many times. This is like the men's game. But I guess, yes, they are playing each other too many times, so the top 4 will be. But
well, they'll play each other 3 times, won't they?
That's better than playing
in the regular season, because they'll play. Everybody plays each other once in the opening 10 weeks, and then the top 4 split off, and they play each other again, home and away. So they'll play each other 3. The trouble, there's likely to be a cup meeting as well, but we're at a very low starting base with Women's Rugby League, and I think that what they have acknowledged, particularly with the World Cup coming up in 2021, is that the best players need to play each other as often as they can to get the standard as high as it can be before we play Charlotte Booth and her
Australian team. Yeah, I spoke to Courtney Hill about her, and you'll see that on Forty20 TV at some point in the near future. She speaks too well not to be used more by the sport. She's actually intelligent.
If she's staying in,
can
we claim her for England?
I don't know. Has she been here long enough? I don't know. It's making up as we go.
Give her a
anyway.
passport. Give her a
passport. Robbie Chase goes.
Dual reg, get her in.
Going to be an interesting season. I think the top 4 competition at the end of the year will be great. I hope all those games are on the All League app, or as many as they can, because when those teams play each other, and I think two of the best games I saw all season last year were the two semi-finals Leeds beat Saints in, especially the second one, which was a ridiculous game. I think Saints are going to win it this year. I think they were so close last year. And I say this now, and you know in 9 months' time, 10 months' time, when he's just out, in 10 months' time, we're 2 days after the women's grand final, she'll be here, won't she, with another two tattoos, medals. Then the New England Patriots of Women's Rugby League. But who's the Tom Brady? I don't know.
Well, they now know that the grand final is at their home ground.
It is, which is it would have been there last year, but wasn't, and it's going to be there for the next 2 years, which Headingley is a rugby venue, as we saw yesterday. As a rugby venue, those key words there, second to none. Chris says, in other words, the Arrow seem to think that it's only a top 4 comp and the rest are not good enough. I tend to think, Chris, that... Well, I said at the time when they said they were bringing in Huddersfield and Warrington, ask Tom Brindle today, you can see that on Forty20 TV at some point in the near future. I perhaps suggested, does it dilute the competition? What do I know? I'm just sitting on the side, pontificating about things.
It gives more people, more women and girls, the chance to play in a structured competition, but they're clearly... I mean, the Aussies have done it slightly differently. They have recognised the fact that they only want to create 4 super clubs, and they play each other. But, for example, Charlotte Booth has gone to play for West Panthers in Brisbane. They're one of 8 teams that play in the Queensland Women's Rugby League, and from those teams, Brisbane Broncos and any of the other New Zealand Warriors or St George or the Roosters, they can pick from that competition. So they only wanted 4 big clubs to start with, and they only play each other one. The regular season's like 3 weeks. Yeah. We went the other way. We went, let's get everybody who wants to play in there. Realised last year that because of resource that clubs can allocate or choose to allocate, some clubs were more advanced than others, attracted the cream of the players, of which you want to increase the reservoir to get the cream to the top. So the cream's gone to ostensibly 4 clubs, which mainly came from other established rugby league clubs in the women's game, and there isn't yet enough to go around to have cream for 8 clubs. But I think by splitting them after 10 weeks, everybody gets a chance to play against the elite clubs, and then the elite clubs get the chance to play against each other. So for me, it works. It's just honestly playing to what you've got. It's
important for the development of players to play more intense games. We saw that in the men's game. I think there's going to be a great battle for 4th, between at least 3 sides. I don't know anything about Warrington. I don't know what they're going to be. And then you're going to get an interesting Shield competition, double-header grand final. Great. And hopefully
it goes back to what we were talking about with the salary cap. If you think your team's got a chance to win something, you're more predisposed to regularly support them and go and see them and buy a ticket for them, even if that's the Shield. The 1895 Cup for Sheffield was massive. As Mark Aston said today at the launch, you can only win 2 cups, and we won one of them.
Yeah, it's not bad, is it?
So if you know that you support, let's say, and I'm picking a team completely at random here, Batley, and that maybe this year perhaps you're not going to make that top 5, and as a club perhaps you're not ready or don't want to be in Super League, you can play at Wembley. Now, what's wrong with a Warrington women's team going, well, it's our first year in the Super League. We don't think at the moment we can match St Helens or Wigan, but what we can do is we can win the Shield in a double header at Headingley. I don't see a problem with the format. I think they've actually acknowledged what potentially could have been a weakness of the format.
Transfer news from Australia from Dawn. With Tron Mitchell's gone to the South Sydney Rabbitohs. Anyone shocked?
To play fullback.
There you go.
Which is where he's always wanted to play.
Not replacing Slamming Sam Burgess.
Well, he'll be taking his money, but...
What happened to Sam?
He's coming over here soon. Paying us a visit.
Play for the
Well,
Rabbitohs.
not us.
Not us. He's coming in. Has he written a book? He's going to write a book?
But yeah, he's coming over, apparently.
Someone should get him to write a book. People want to talk
He's just
about...
sold his house for $5 million.
I saw that, yeah. Well done, Sam.
It's not short of a few quid.
Get him on the BBC website for that. Sandy's been on with some news on Meghan Markle. Why do we refer to the female spouses of royals by their maiden names or whatever their names were before? Because it's still Kate Middleton.
So is she Meghan Windsor now?
I think it's Sussex now, isn't it? Because Harry was Harry Wales at one point, or Henry, because that's his name. Apparently, she's a fan of the Toronto Blue Jays, so she might support Toronto Wolfpack.
Well, if it was me, I'd be sending her a season ticket, and I'm sure the Wolfpack have already thought of that.
More about Toronto in a minute, more about Prince Harry, because of course Valencia, they're in now. They lost to Featherstone. I tell you, I should read the papers more, because Gareth Gale scored a hat-trick. He's my cousin. I didn't even know he'd signed for Fev again. So that was good. So they won 102-14. I do like the feather kit, grey and purple. Lots of grey and purple around this year. There's some fans.
586.
Apparently so, yeah. So
we're there.
Valencia are in. Red Star Belgrade are in. Ottawa are in. New York are in. Sorry, West Wales.
Well, West Wales sounds exotic.
That's it, yeah. Sorry, Barrow. Sorry, Kingsley.
Unlucky Hunsler.
Yeah. Yeah, you're out. London Scholars there, London, they can stay in. Coventry we like them, so they can stay in. Rochdale.
Again, because there is no concerted policy of what we're trying to achieve, it's not about the individual clubs. I hope Valencia are a huge success, but at the moment you can't see a League One that has got more travel in it than Super League.
They've played more games than Ottawa and New York have played combined. Well, there you go. Mentioned Rochdale there. It has been mentioned in dispatches by Carson about them signing a player. I don't know enough about the story.
I don't. Is it a redemption story in the waiting?
Well, it will be, won't it? We go back to what we said about Izzy Folau on this programme. We go back to what we said about Ben Barber on this programme last year. It's up to the sports governing body to decide who they want to register or not. So, as long as a player is available to be signed, if a club thinks they are good enough, they will sign them. Mm-hmm. Same as for players coming back from drug bans, and get a redemption story off the back of that as well. So, would I be happy signing a player in that sense? I don't think it's my place necessarily to have an opinion on that. And the answer is probably no. But
I don't know enough about
exactly
the person, B, the case, and C, what they bring to a dressing room.
I wonder why clubs... Is it worth it? That's the question you've got to ask. Is it worth it? Probably Meghan Markle a freeloader. That's a bit harsh. She had a proper job. She had a career before she married the royals. Let's talk about Prince Harry.
Financially independent.
Well, they're going to be, yeah. Prince Harry.
She's going to... What did she say? I'm not taking any credit for this. Apparently she's going to appear in The Crown as herself.
Here he is, look. Old Prince Harry. Prince Henry of Wales. Royal appointment kept, it says here. Says Paul Bennett in the League Weekly. He's going to do the draw on Thursday, which has been absolute brilliant. You can't plan for this timing. The Rugby League World Cup, which no one has a bad word about, apart from stupid people, because they'll find fault with it somehow. We're not putting a game in my backyard. They delayed the draw, and they said it's going to be in an iconic venue, and we sat on this programme pontificating and said, until then, brilliant. Or somewhere else, because it was due to be at Old Trafford. We're all due
Where
to go to
can
Old
be
Trafford.
more iconic?
Where can
we
be
said
than the host of the final, the Theatre of Dreams. Well, it happens to be Buckingham Palace, where the Queen lives off the telly. How'd they manage that?
And not only that, but the amount of publicity this draw has had, even before the story that came 4 or 5 hours afterwards. Royal correspondents were tweeting about the Rugby League World Cup draw.
Are they bigger parasites than Rugby League journalists? That's a big question.
Well, I don't know, but they have millions of followers. The Royal social media channels are covering the draw. There are Royal watchers who have absolutely no interest in anything other than the Royals, who will see who England are playing in the World Cup.
Dave Woods is going to be there.
It's brilliant. It's Honey Hyreem is going to be there.
It's absolutely... I don't know. Everything is going right for them, which is brilliant. Everything that's been planned for this World Cup so far has been... Everything we've been to has been great.
Has been There's been foresight, there's been planning, there's been a strategy about who they want the game to appeal to outside of its normal enclave. The fact that people then start saying, oh, it's typically rugby league, at the minute they say they're going to do the draw, they want to bugger up. The publicity that we've gained. And his first appointment will be to do the...
This is not Richard Bacon doing the Challenge
This is brilliant. But the amount of times that it's had a mention on the back of them even wanted to withdraw from public life. Will he be allowed into Buckingham Palace by his grandmother to do the draw? Yeah, brilliant. It's all great publicity. Just trade on the back of it. It's happening. It will go ahead on Thursday.
With the way the news is going, it might be the main news story. Prince Harry draws England out against someone. I can't look to the polls. I should have looked at that.
It's the first time that he will have been seen in public since he made the announcement that he didn't want to be seen in public.
Meghan's going to come halfway through and sing "God Save the Queen." The Sex Pistols version.
He's going to say, "I'd have been there, but Canada aren't in the World Cup."
Jeff wonders if the Queen has Sky Sports. She'll have it for the racing. She loves the racing. I mean, there's the question today asked of Mr. Rimmer about what's going to happen with his patronage of the Rugby Football League. Well, he's giving up, so we'll get somebody else in.
Or
does it really matter?
Of the 6 months a year that he wants to do royal work, he can stay our patron.
Does it matter? Do we care who the patron is? I mean, he was good. He turned up at the Challenge Cup. He's done a few things.
He's brilliant. He's brilliant.
The only people who don't like him are idiots who read those newspapers who don't like him because he married a woman who's not white or blonde. I got in trouble for saying that on social media last year. People saying, "Are you saying people are that stupid?" I'm saying, yes, they are.
I think there are some people within our sport as well who are anti-establishment. It's in our DNA. So
we are the rebel sport. That's what Ralph said today.
The association with royalty doesn't sit well with them, but we have got more publicity out of this than anything we may have planned.
We get publicity for nothing. You look on the BBC website, and I use them as an example because the only headlines we've made in the last few months have been bad news stories.
Well, our good friend Aaron Bauer, who clearly was at whatever Ralph said today about the royal family, it's in a timeline on The Guardian, but in the royal section, it's not in the sports section. Brilliant. Absolutely fantastic.
And no one may pay any attention after Thursday, but it doesn't matter because people now are aware that in 2021 in this country there is a World Cup of Rugby League, the other rugby, not the one they know.
And it's important enough that the Royals are involved.
Harry's doing the draw? He's drawing out the home teams
in the garden.
He
won't be allowed in the house.
Well, I said the car park this morning, yeah. It's going to be great.
No, it's happening.
How people can find a negative in it, I don't know how.
But again, you see, that's a go back to if we all work together, what on earth could we achieve? We've got World Cup 2021 going in that direction, brilliant. We've got Super League going in that direction, and we've got the RFL going in that direction. Well, we all work together, what could we achieve?
So the Rugby League World Cup draw is going to be made on, I believe it's on the BBC as well, and on the royal family's social media.
Who knew?
On Thursday. And we're going to be in Manchester watching it on the big telly. And the draw for the second round of the Challenge Cup, someone asked when this is going to be on local radio.
Tomorrow.
Why was the draw for the first round on like the BBC website and the second round was on the local radio station, in which only one club got through from Leeds? I don't know. When we were in a past life, when we were at Radio Yorkshire, God bless Uncle Ken, we asked to host one of the draws and we were turned down because we were only in Yorkshire. But that was in a previous regime at the RFL, so we can't blame those who are there at the moment. But still, I'm bitter.
I'm hope we'll get a women's cup.
Yeah. If you want us to host any draw you want, if you've got any draws you want to do, maybe you're playing on the Xbox or something.
We're quite happy to pull out balls, aren't we?
Oh yeah, very much so. Sonny Bill Williams has met Paul Pogba.
But again,
that's exciting.
Whilst you may or may not like the idea of him choosing Manchester United as his team to support, not everybody does. Where else are we going to get? Where else are we going to get rugby league and one of the most recognisable sporting brands in the world paired together?
Here's one of the interesting stories this week, and now I'm just flicking through the paper. Huddersfield's link up with Canberra, and they're sending one of their players down there, which it's got to be a great thing, and something perhaps other clubs.
But even more about that, the person who they're sending has only been playing rugby league for 2 years. Came through the Irish domestic scene at Longhorns, took a punt on himself, came over to Huddersfield, has taken up the opportunity to now play for Canberra under 20s. How good is this? If you ever needed evidence that there's talent out there that we don't fish, then Ronan Michael is that example. Let's do it more.
More things. We should do more good things.
No, well, give more opportunities in areas where perhaps we don't normally.
I'm looking. I was before today. I was a bit meh. I think the World Cup thing especially has just got me excited again for the new season. Even though the World Cup is ostensibly 2 years away, although because far too many times we focus on negatives and things that annoy me on social media. And I should say, by the way, if you are doing something for charity, like, say, flogging T-shirts at £37.99 a piece, I think it's common courtesy.
I'd want a three-piece suit for that.
When people are buying a shirt for £37.99, to tell them how much of that £37.99 is going to the charity. Because let's face it, we all know T-shirts don't cost £37.99 to knock up. We know there's a markup on them when you buy your shirt in the club shop or whatever. You buy it because you're supporting the club. If you're buying something to support the charity, I think you should be open about how much of that money is going to charity. Otherwise people might say, well, just give a £5 instead. I don't know why they don't do it.
I think, having paid credit again to some of the things that excited you, I think the NRL announcing that the whole of round one of their competition will be in commemoration of those who've tried so gallantly to fight the bushfires is again an indication of what rugby league can do. I think some of the players that have been out there helping on the front line, fantastic. Again, a tacit admission that we are the sport of community. There is a lot to admire at the moment. The International Rugby League have added a third golden boot.
Yes.
For the wheelchair player, international player, wheelchair player.
Which is an interesting name of the thing. Should it be the wheel of
the golden wheel?
Golden wheel or something? I don't know.
But either, again, I think the recognition which is going to be presented on the 31st of January at a gala dinner. I think again, they're all good things. Well,
that's one of the things that struck me today was our sport is inclusive. And I know that's a buzzword, and I think what you take away from season launches, it depends on who you speak to. And I didn't necessarily go there with the intention not to speak to people from the Championship or League One clubs. But I don't watch enough to or know who they've signed to ask any incisive question. Oh, you've signed Brett Ferry, so how's that going to go? Who cares? But fair fans. I'm not saying there's no merit in doing that, of course. But I don't have any interest in it necessarily, so I'm not going to ask about it. But you learn things from speaking to people you don't come into contact with week in, week out. And you do see that our sport actually has elements which are inclusive to people in society, which other sports may not be. And you can obviously tell that someone or some people within the RFL have realised that perhaps, and this is just my summation, we've reached a saturation point in the men's game in terms of attracting people to the sport. But there are other groups of people who we can attract to play our sport in its various forms, which means more people who might pay through the turnstiles, and more people who might watch on TV or buy a shirt or whatever. And we seem to be doing a smart thing. Football doesn't need to do it, I know.
Well, actually it does, because it doesn't have any money.
That's true. Outside of, you don't tend to see... I'm trying to think of a famous footballer. No, this is ridiculous. Harry Kane isn't pictured alongside somebody who plays the England blind team or whatever.
Well, he would be if you paid him £100,000 to do it.
He's probably the wrong example because he comes across as a decent fella.
And he probably somebody will now produce a picture of him with the England,
but you don't
which he did for nothing.
But there's no, you don't get that same sense that we are all one sport in our various guises. We just need to...
We need to capitalise on what we do best.
We need to pull together more. And if you are a fan of the Castleford Tigers, why don't you go watch the women play? Or, again, it's a bad example, isn't it? Or the learning disability team when they play, or the PDRL, or... Wheelchair rugby is a bit of a difficult one because it's not as accessible as the wrong word, is it? But to watch, because the games are played all over the place and not necessarily where you'd expect. But when the World Cup comes around and you're going to have games at the big arena in Liverpool and the Copper Box and whatever, we should be supporting these because they are all part of our sport. We all love rugby league, and I know we all love our club first, and then we pretend we like rugby league, but really we're not bothered. We just want our team to win everything.
It should be the other way around, because that's where our strength is.
There's so many good things that we tend to... We're guilty of this, of course we are, on this programme. We tend to focus a lot on negative things. We try and find solutions. But there are lots of positive things as well.
I think there is a difference there, and it's something that we've mentioned on many an occasion. I think criticism is welcome if it's constructive, because we all want the sport to be the best it can be, and I think where sometimes we feel it's letting itself down is that we can see areas where perhaps it could be better. Now, we don't have any of the answers, and sometimes it's about posing the questions so that the people in power can find the answers, because if you don't pose the question, then you're not addressing the issues. But I don't think we're negative for the sake of being negative. No. In fact, I don't think we're negative. I think we're realistic, and I don't think there's anything wrong with that. I think if we treated politics in the same way, perhaps the world might be a slightly better place. But what we should do is when we've got the opportunity to promote the sport, we all have to do it together. We have to know what the hymn sheet is to sing off it, and too often we don't get given a hymn sheet.
As has been pointed out, because I don't want to steal the fact that they've told me something on YouTube. Luke sent us a message. The NFL UK account, which has 201,000 followers, has just retweeted a video of Rob Burrow going to the Super Bowl and explaining his story. How many followers did Leeds Rhinos have? 187,000. I don't know how many Super League have, but 201,000 for the NFL UK account. It's not bad, is it? Hopefully enjoys the game.
I think he'll enjoy the experience of being at the game.
I don't know who's doing the halftime show this year. But,
Frank Sinatra. I normally get to half-time and then they throw on somebody I've never heard of.
Asleep.
It's 3 o'clock in the morning and I...
Last night I was watching
who's going to be in it? I mean, I know this is a rugby league podcast, but
Green Bay Packers play somebody else.
The Castleford of the NFL.
Went to the conference finals, the semi-finals, if you will, because no one really cares who wins the.
Was it Louisville? Got
it's the Green Bay Packers versus the San Francisco 49ers and the Tennessee Titans.
Yes.
Versus the Kansas City Chiefs, who ridiculously were 21-0 down when I turned the game on, and then scored 30 points in one quarter, and then beat the Houston Texans, who completely blew that game.
Have the Tennessee Titans ever been anywhere near a Super Bowl?
I think they've been in one. I don't know if they've won it or not.
Well,
but
there you go. You see, I don't know anything, and I'm already excited about Green Bay.
And Rob Burrow will be there. Let's get him on the pitch at half time. Get him on there. He can do the. Can he sing? He can do everything else.
Don't see why he couldn't. I'm sure he can play an instrument.
Apparently it's on the NFL's actual Facebook page, says Luke. Apologies. With 17.4 million followers. It's not bad. But
again, that's how we need to approach marketing the sport, because the stories we've got to tell and the people that play the game are astonishing. And in Rob's case, who now currently don't play the game. But if we just continue banging out the same stuff to the same people...
Well, this was something Ralph mentioned in his speech, and now you've mentioned that, about exposing people to the product. I can't remember his exact words, so I don't want to misquote.
I don't want to think of Ralph and exposing in the same
his tweet too. But he did mention,
in front of an organ,
putting stuff on the All League app, and it's like, well, you're not exposing to anyone, you are.
Exactly, that is preaching to the converted.
We haven't spoken about that, actually, because that happened while we've been off. The people moaning that games have been moved to be shown because they moan that not enough games are shown and now they're being moved to be shown. 6:15 is an interesting time slot on a Sunday. That sounds like it's almost a trial for something in the future, going forward, saying to broadcasters, hey look, 6:15 on a Sunday afternoon, this number of people watch Rugby League on the R-League app. Maybe it's up to us all then to have the R-League app on when the game's on, not paying attention to it, but just bump the figures up. Like I do when I get home and watch this video on a million computers.
Wondered how we got so many views.
Because as Tim says, Rugby League simply needs to be on terrestrial telly more, even if it's just been the Super League show being on in prime time. It's not going to be on in prime time because there's no sport is on in prime time.
Again, I'm not 100% sure at the moment how significant terrestrial television is, because people tend not to consume sport in the way they used to. They don't watch whole matches anymore. What's really resonated, going back to the game yesterday at Headingley, is the clips that both Sky Sports have put out. I think the BBC have been putting them out. Betfred have been putting them out. They're little clips. You know, we were watching one just before we came on air of Kylie Luluai's King hit on Paul Sam Smith. And the fact is that's what people want to watch. They want to repeatedly watch some old bloke come off a bench and bend in half some young kid. Now, you don't have to follow Rugby League today. You don't need to watch the whole game. That has become a highlight. Youth Joe, 7 or 8 of those. And that might be how people consume Rugby League. They don't know the sport. They might see a brilliant bit of skill, an amazing tackle, somebody with tears in their eyes. That is what... You know, terrestrial television, great. It tends to get a higher audience than satellite television, but it's not the only way to sell your sport.
This is why I can never understand why they pay Lineker so much, because he's there ostensibly to present Match of the Day, which is the highlights of the football on a Saturday night. Which, A, if people want to see the highlights, they've probably seen them before then anyway, and B, you can put anyone presenting it because they're just there to watch the football, not the bloke who's presenting it for £2 million a year. And it's the same with the Super League show in a sense, because on a Friday night, by 10:30 at the latest, if there's 3 games on, the game on the telly, you watch that. The highlights are already up. I can see all the tries. I don't need to wait for someone to tell me nothing on Monday that I've already seen. As I said a couple of weeks ago, it's interesting that someone broke ranks to say they weren't happy with the Super League show, whatever, as if to give them a kick up the backside. I'm not sure what the future is. I don't know where the future is in terms of broadcasting. I don't know how we get more people to watch. Whether it is highlights, whether it is full games on free-to-air TV. Just because there was people will go back to Channel 5 and they had the one of the Rugby Union Premiership games on over Christmas, or the Heineken Cup, whatever it's called, on Channel 4. Unless you're predisposed to have any preference of any of the teams playing, or like rugby, quote unquote, are you going to watch it? No. So it's important we have a presence on terrestrial TV, but how important that presence is compared to everything else? Is it more important that we get £100 million from Sky?
It's very important that we have match reports in the national press and the trade press, but less and less people are reading it. That's the truth, and we have to find other ways of getting those reports to them in a manner and a way that they want to read them.
I always talk about ice hockey, don't know too much. Over Christmas, which as we know is a costly time, the Sheffield Steelers had 3 home games over the Christmas period and New Year. One of them was a £5 game, so right, you can say, right, fair enough. They had 3 crowds of over 8,000 people. For a sport which has no media coverage. It's on Free Sport, that's it. It's in the local newspaper, that's it. You don't pick up the whichever daily newspaper of choice and read about the ice hockey scores in the back of the paper.
They're not even on Sports Personality.
No. So if they can get those crowds, and yes, they have the advantage of being inside, and so on and so forth. They've got a nice facility that hasn't been knocked down by terrible council for legacy reasons. If they can get 8,000 people, and we've got teams in our Super League who don't get anywhere near that, with the terrestrial TV coverage, of the Challenge Cup and the Super League throughout the season. We've been on Sky twice a week, with features on Sky Sports News all the time, with articles in the national press all the time. There's something wrong. What's wrong with our product that we can't get new people to watch it?
Nothing. There's nothing wrong with the product. It's how you sell the product, which goes back to the argument we had, not the acknowledgement of how basketball reinvented itself. It realised it had the product. It sold the things around the product like the people that play it. It made them, in effect, shareholders in the sport.
Jason says Sheffield are the only ice hockey team in Yorkshire. Yeah, they are in the top flight. Yeah, that's right. Because as we all know, Leeds United, of course, paid £250,000 for a franchise for an ice hockey team that they never played again because they never built the arena. Well done, Leeds United. Leeds Lasers. The Leeds Chiefs exist now, not the Chiefs. Yes, they are the only team in Yorkshire.
They're playing their first home game.
They are at the end of the
and
month.
it's sold out.
There you go. Yes, they are the only team in Yorkshire, and there's plenty of rugby league teams in Yorkshire. But also, I'm in Wakefield. Castlewood is there. Featherston's there. Leeds is here. Hunslet's there. Bradford. Forgot about Bradford. Keighley. Batley Dewsbury. Sheffield. Doncaster. Hull. Other Hull. York. They are all in places which have people around. Featherston, fair enough. They are. We'll talk about Super League. Well, it's just Super League teams then. They are all in places which could feasibly have 8,000 people.
Play to your strengths.
I know Sheffield's a big city as well, but I'm comparing a sport which has no coverage.
Mm. But I'm not sure how many you know the audience that goes to ice hockey far better than I do.
It's a family audience.
But how many people will travel from North Yorkshire to go and watch a team in South Yorkshire? So I think that they built their fan base around the people of South Yorkshire. You don't walk through the centre of Leeds and see too many people wearing Sheffield Steelers shirts.
I think we can take things from other spots. We are too insular, and sometimes perhaps too. We forget we punch above our weight quite well. Not as much as we used to do, but the world has changed since those days.
We have to change with it.
Can we?
We have to. Unless we go back to being predominantly a part-time sport.
Which you might be forced to be. Oh, no. I think we're nearly done, aren't we, today, I think. The RFL do nothing to promote Rugby League every year. We say the same thing and nothing ever happens, says Sheila. We'll be sending us that in 12 months' time. I don't know. We'll be back next week. I know we've not done 2 hours, but we only ever did 2 hours because that was our slot on the radio. There's nothing else. Has anything happened I've missed? I think we've touched on everything just about.
Every Super League team seems to be having warm weather training this year.
Yeah,
apart from Wigan, who went up Snowdonia. Saints have been in Tenerife. It's Louis McCarthy's Scarsbrook's testimonial this weekend. Liam Farrell's testimonial this weekend, as well as Michael Shenton's.
They're all bunched
Go and
together,
support them.
When are they? Let me have a look. See if they put the fixtures in the paper. So they did. Here they are. Friday, London Skulls versus Wigan. That's the game at the Royal Artillery. It's called.
Yes, the HAC.
Saturday, Cathlands versus Toulouse. Oldham versus St Helens Reserves. Sunday, Batley versus Hull FC. Cass versus Toronto. Brackets Manchester for Sid. Dewsbury versus Bradford on Dewsbury versus Bradford.
Landlord versus tenant.
Rigsby versus Miss Jones.
Brilliant.
Or whatever Richard Beckinsale's character was called. Doncaster versus Sheffield Eagles for the South Yorkshire Cuppers. Just a word for Doncaster and Sheffield. They're not using it this year, so just call it the Yorkshire Cup. Hull-Kings Rovers versus Featherston Rovers. Losers have to get rid of the word Rovers from their name. Keighley Cougars versus Coventry Bears. Who'd win in a fight between Cougars and Bears? Rochdale Hornets versus Swinton Lions in the right to be called Manchester. Loser has to be called Manchester Derby. St Helens versus London Broncos. Winners versus North Wales. Wigan versus Leeds. And York versus Halifax. York might not play their first game at the stadium when they did.
But they are having a bijou facility built, which is what
Boutique.
people want. It's going to be state of the art.
I'm looking forward to going there when Wakefield play Toronto in Old York, because I'm sure they'll be promoting it. Sheila says it's Mike Cooper's testimony on Thursday.
Mike Cooper, yeah.
Doesn't say in the paper they're playing, so I can't tell you. I'm afraid. Game needs to sell itself by being a quality product. If only we had the personalities and teams of the late 80s and early 90s in Super League now, says David.
We've got the personalities. Rob Burrow will tell you, will show you that we have the personalities.
We just have to...
Have we sold them? No.
Goes back to what I said earlier. It's easier to sell a redemption story, isn't it, than a positive story.
The two big stories over the period between the last season ending and the new season starting have been Sonny Bill Williams and Rob Burrow.
Yeah.
They are both personalities.
Here's what we haven't spoken about. If you suggest any personalities, by the way, we should promote. Not that we can, but, the sport should. They're going to have their own TV, but better they're doing their own show. Got bombarded.
See, I thought when he won the Golden Boot that Tommy Makinson was a personality we would promote because he finished his tries.
Yeah.
But, if you just put together a compilation of that.
Is that the Tommy Makinson I wasn't able to speak to after the winning the Golden Boot? In fairness, there was an all-in session, but no good for national radio. His Barnstonworth 101.
Barnstonworth, now that is a name and a half.
I got on the train back from Huddersfield today. Slowett. There's a proper northern place. Yeah, there's Toronto players. That's what Toronto should be doing. Is the players that pronouncing northern towns wrong. I mean, granted, they're all from the north of England, aren't they? Forget that. But get that. That'd be great.
North Alden.
Well, there was a brief time when I did cricket scores on local radio, which was brilliant because we went off air before the game was finished. Didn't have a clue how to pronounce any of these names. Bring back there you go, radio leads. Bring back the cricket on a Saturday night. The RFL have said they will make an announcement about Wayne Bennett's future next month. I'm sure they did that last month as well.
February 6th.
As they said after the GB tour, no change. What has prompted this announcement? Probably someone asked Ralph today at his briefing.
Kevin Sinfield has done his report. He's handed it in to the headmaster's desk, and we're just waiting for it to be.
I'm sure on Thursday. I'm assuming he will be one of the people there representing England because we know Wayne Bennett's not going to be there. I don't know who else could be there. Who's not at
John
Buckingham
Keir.
Palace? Well, he's representing Wales. He's not.
He'll be there.
Yeah. We can ask them then. Say, Kev, what's in your report? What will be released first to the public? Kevin Sinfield's report on the disastrous tour of Australasia, or the Russian report? The one that the government are hiding. That said, it's the Russians. You know the answer to that one. The Russian report.
It's been like watching Stadler and Waldorf to me.
Well, I'm saying these things. I don't know what I'm saying. Jason Ross has been on the L Trail. No idea how locals came up with that pronunciation. I think we're back on Slough again.
I think it's a local town for local people.
Yeah.
If you don't know how to pronounce it, you can't come in.
Carson says Switzerland's expensive, so we won't be taking a team to Switzerland. The Bern Bombers. I don't know, is that offensive? I don't know.
Well, London's pretty expensive.
So we're going to call... Wasn't when Halifax were called the Blue Sox? Which genius came up with that? They were going to be called the Halifax Bombers until someone said... Look, we know... now would be perfect, because, we love all that kind of stuff. Go on, Halifax, rename your team.
Take back control.
Rugby League means Rugby League. A great... well done to the Hull KR fans as well, by the way, for singing their song about Danny Brough yesterday. Can't tell you the words because quickly someone pressed the button at Bellevue. It's still there. Rugby League is a family game. Don't swear. So apparently, whatever you think about Danny Brough, come on, behave now.
Did he appreciate it? Did he laugh?
Probably. It's too far away for me to notice. But see, we say we're going to go, and then people start asking us things. Apparently, Wire vs Salford is a week on Thursday. I do like all these midweek games next week for no apparent reason.
It'll be snowy.
It'll be snowy. It'll be snowy. She says, didn't know Runcorn were one of the original founding Northern Union teams.
Yes, they were.
But not the Runcorn who became Runcorn Highfield, which I need to do a video on because that is a bizarre...
But the Dewsbury
London
delegate
Highfield.
never got there.
Was it someone from Morley as well? Didn't get there, and if they
Was
got
it
there-
Morley? Yeah, it might have been
because
Morley.
they didn't, because they're still a Rugby Union team. We could have had another team in the bloody Leeds. possibly.
Runcorn and Stockport were asked in because 2 teams couldn't make it.
Runcorn, not the Runcorn Highfield, who were London Highfield and Wigan Highfield and Highfield. Then it gets. There's a bit where Trafford Borough split off from Chorley Borough, but Chorley Borough still remain a thing. But not like when Huddersfield and Sheffield merged and then Sheffield remained a thing after they demerged. Chorley played at the same time as Trafford, with no fans watching either team. Rubbish.
We were talking about Scarborough's sole season yesterday.
Scarborough. Their
Pirates.
shirts keep appearing on eBay, but for too much that I could justify paying for. But actual player shirts from the Scarborough
There can't be
Pirates.
many.
No, the Scarborough Pirates sole season. They are out there. These shirts are out there. They're part of our history and heritage. Scarborough Pirates, Cardiff City Blue Dragons.
Mansfield March.
Mansfield
Kent
Marksman.
Invicta.
Kent Invicta, who became Southend Invicta for a season or whatever. Nottingham City, who were Mansfield. Scarborough, Chorley, Trafford, Blackpool, other Blackpool, Liverpool City.
Are we going through just a list of defunct teams?
Highton,
We could be here a very long
Highton
time.
on Rugby.
Broughton Rangers. Bring back Broughton Rangers.
Bellevue.
Brighouse. Manningham. First winners
Yeah.
of the Northern Union.
See, do they put on their honours board that they are the... Because they should do. Well, they're going to win. Got more chance of winning the Northern Union than they have of winning League One or whatever it is these days. Sean said it's all football in Runcorn now. Is there actually anything in Runcorn apart from that bridge? And I think...
And on that bombshell.
Oh, Sandy's talking about Scarborough. Because there's Scarborough in Ontario, isn't she?
There's lots of Scarboroughs.
I've enjoyed tonight. It's been good. I said that's good.
It's almost like it's been scripted.
Yeah. I think we've touched on everything we need to touch on. There'll be loads of content going up in the next few days. From today's Rugby League launch. If you're a fan of any of the big clubs in the Championship, go listen to other people's podcasts. Because they spoke to all the coaches. So we didn't speak to John Keir, or James Ford, or James Webster, or John Duffy, or
Tim Sheens.
Tim Sheens, he was there. Matty Smith was there. Everyone wanted to speak to Matty Smith. Matty, you were at Catalans this year, and you were at Warrington for a bit. What happened? So,
I just wanted to play for Widnes.
what do you think of Gary Schofield?
Is he on your Christmas card list?
He will be back, people. He will be back. Apparently Scouser have took over Runcorn. And on that bombshell, it's like Harry and Meghan.
We might have some World Cup stuff later in the week.
Yes, we will be there at the draw on Thursday. We're not at Buckingham Palace.
Yeah, I'm getting dressed as a Corby and trying to sneak in.
We will be in Manchester watching on a screen and hoping the feed stays live to see Prince Harry, Henry of Wales, the Duke of Sussex, the patron of the Rugby Football League, soon to be an ex-royal. Which was the one who moved down to Monaco with Gracie Fields. Gracie Fields. That's who it was. Rochdale's finest. Her and Lisa Stansfield. We'll end up with Princess Beatrice as the RFL patron, and we'll just go. Sorry, we'll have to watch
Well,
Rugby Union.
when the women's game is more important than the men's, she'll be perfect.
Yeah.
You heard it here first.
We'll be back next week. Mark might be back next week. Sky might not be, I don't know.
Scully might be back next week.
Well, we'll find out. Thanks for watching. Goodbye. I think that's alright. Is it alright? You can tell me, podcast people. Was it alright? Yeah, it'll do.